The stars were quiet that night. For over 500 years, Earth had been silent. Most believed humans were extinct, wiped out by their own wars. The Galactic Peace Council never dared to go near that cursed world again. But one young alien, technician named Relva, was curious. Alone in the dark observatory, he found a strange signal buried in the deep archives. Old, broken, but still active. It blinked once, then again. A warning? Or a trap? He hesitated, then pressed send. The signal roared to life, and across the galaxy, something began to wake. The scout ship Varnak slipped silently through Earth's dead orbit. Dust drifted across cracked satellite husks. The blue planet, once so full of noise, now looked cold and empty. Its surface was gray and scorched. Cities were gone. Forests, ash, oceans, strangely still. For centuries, the galaxy believed Earth was a grave. And now, finally, the Galactic Peace Council had sent a crew to confirm it. Captain Sorrow adjusted his comm link and stared at the screen. No signals, no defenses, no signs of life, his second officer said. Sorrow didn't reply. He didn't believe it. No one ever really did. The Varnak descended. They flew over what once was North America, now blackened stone, broken skyscrapers, and vast craters. Nothing moved, no heat signatures. But under the silence, something felt wrong. The ground below looked too untouched, like it was waiting. The ship landed on a massive metal platform hidden beneath layers of dust. It was smooth, black, and warm. The crew stepped out, weapons drawn, scanning everything. No wind, no sound, just that metal beneath their feet, humming, like a living thing. Then Lieutenant Kryn found it, a tower, towering 20 meters high, shaped like a twisted spiral of dark steel. No windows, no doors, just standing there in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't here in our archives, Kryn said. This wasn't part of any old Earth city. He reached out to touch it. Wait, Captain Sorrow began. Too late. The moment his fingers brushed. The surface, the tower, pulsed red. A deep tone shook the air like a heartbeat. The sky above flickered. For 1 second, they all saw it, a shadow with too many arms staring down from the clouds. And then, visions. Each crew member saw flashes. Horrifying memories that weren't theirs. A man, soaked in blood, smiling as his body caught fire. But he didn't scream. A woman floating above Earth, commanding machines with her thoughts, her eyes black with lightning, armies with no faces, machines that bled, weapons that whispered names before they fired, monsters, human monsters. Sorrow fell to his knees, shaking. What did they do to themselves? Kryn was crying. They didn't die, he whispered. They became something else. The tower dimmed. The visions stopped. The crew stood in silence, too afraid to breathe. Then the ground beneath them opened. From below, something crawled out, tall, armored, and wrong. It moved like a man, but sounded like metal grinding against bone. Its eyes glowed the same red as the tower. Kryn raised his weapon. The thing tilted its head, and then it spoke, not in a voice, but in their minds. You came back. Sorrow stepped back. What are you? It didn't answer. Instead, it looked at the stars, then back at them. They answered our warning. Now they'll see the truth. With a burst of motion, the creature vanished back into the ground. The platform lit up with symbols, unknown even to the Council's ancient translators. The Varnak tried to escape. Only one of them made it off-world. They found the ship drifting, in space days later. The hull had been torn open, not from the outside, but the inside. Kryn's body was still in the cockpit, face frozen in terror. He had carved one sentence into the dashboard with his own claw. They're not dead. They were waiting, and now they were awake. The Galactic Council's emergency chamber buzzed with panic. Holograms of alien leaders from 50 species blinked into the air, shouting over each other. News of the Varnak had spread. Its lone survivor, found drifting in space, had left. A final warning. One line, scratched into steel. They're not dead. They were waiting. For 500 years, Earth had been silent, declared a quarantine zone, a forgotten ruin. But now, it had spoken, and it spoke in terror. High Chancellor Dorek, a towering insectoid from the Tharn Dominion, slammed a claw on the table. "This was your mistake," he hissed, pointing one limb at the human artifact hovering mid-air. It was the same signal that had been reactivated weeks ago. "You told us they were gone." Counselor Hylan, a feathered diplomat from the peaceful Saraxi people, shook her head. "No, we hoped they were gone. We prayed, but we never confirmed it. Earth was left alone because we were afraid. And now that fear is back," someone else whispered. The chamber fell into a cold silence. An ancient alien, skin like stone, stood slowly. "There was a reason we buried their name in history," he said. "A reason we erased them from maps, records, even language. You want to remember why? I'll show you." He waved a hand. The lights dimmed. A forgotten archive flickered into life, raw footage from a war the galaxy was never supposed to speak of again. It showed Earth's final days before the silence. Not the end of a world, the birth of monsters. In the hologram, humans injected themselves with black fluid that shimmered like stars. Machines dug into their spines, flesh twisted. Soldiers screamed, not in pain, but in triumph. They became apex units, hybrids of man, metal, and madness. They moved faster than any scanner could track. They tore through armies, not just with weapons, but with willpower, force of thought, raw psychic rage. They weren't fighting for territory. "They were fighting to make a point. You should have left us alone." The footage ended with a quote carved onto a ruined alien dreadnought. "The galaxy called us beasts, so we became them." The archive shut off. Several counselors had gone pale. Some wept. One simply disconnected. The ancient alien looked around. "That was 5 centuries ago. We thought the Apex Protocol was suicide, but they didn't die. They went underground." Another voice spoke, quiet, cold, amused. "They evolved." Everyone turned. Counselor Vektal of the Zarn, a race of arrogant conquerors, leaned forward. "Fear makes weak empires. You've spent centuries hiding from shadows. We will deal with these humans." Chancellor Dorek glared. "They're not just humans anymore." Vektal smiled. "Good. Then it will be sport." The Council voted to send a second fleet, larger, faster, armed with the galaxy's best tech. Its orders: contain Earth, capture anything alive, erase anything dangerous. But they misunderstood the danger. Earth wasn't just alive. It was listening. Back on the silent blue planet, far beneath the surface, deep under broken cities and forgotten towers, the Apex units were waking up. Sleeping giants, monsters in metal skin, minds sharp as machines, hearts full of old rage. One of them, a tall, shadowy figure with a face like a skull and eyes like stars, stood before a black terminal. The signal blinked again. "They answered," it said. Another voice replied. Soft, deadly. "Then, let them see what we've become." Across the ruined Earth, towers pulsed, lights flared, deep machines rumbled to life. A war that never ended was ready to begin again. And this time, the monsters weren't defending Earth. They were preparing to leave it. The Zarn fleet arrived in Earth's orbit in perfect formation. 200 warships, polished and deadly, commanded by the arrogant Counselor Vektal. They circled the planet like vultures. The galaxy watched live through thousands of feeds. Diplomats, soldiers, and civilians from dozens of worlds tuned in. They were expecting a swift display of power, overwhelming force to remind Earth's ghosts that the galaxy was no longer afraid. Instead, they saw something no one could explain. Nothing. No response. No threats. Earth stayed quiet. The skies above. Its surface remained empty. Vectal sneered as he looked at the blue and gray planet below. No ships, no defenses, no life, just old ghosts and ruined pride. He raised his command gauntlet. Prepare orbital strike, let's burn the surface. Then, it appeared. One object, rising from Earth like smoke through the clouds. At first it looked like debris. No engines, no heat, no radio signal, just a smooth black spear cutting through the sky with impossible speed. It didn't move. It glided. Straight through the Zarn formation. They scanned it. They fired on it. Nothing touched it. A Zarn destroyer blocked its path. The object didn't change course. It passed through the ship, like mist. 3 seconds later, the destroyer shattered from within. No fire, no explosion, just silence. And then debris. Panic broke out across the fleet. Is it a drone? Some kind of stealth weapon? Vectal's voice roared through the bridge. Lock weapons! Fire everything! Dozens of missiles launched. Plasma beams tore across space. The object turned for the first time, not with thrusters. It twisted space around itself. And then the fleet began to die, not with violence, with absence. Entire ships vanished, leaving no sound, no wreckage. Crews screamed over comms about voices inside the walls and metal in their lungs. One captain's last words were, I see myself, but I'm not me. The object stopped, hovered, and then transmitted, not in sound, but in thought. A signal reached every Zarn mind at once, raw, sharp, full of memory and malice. A single sentence burned itself into their consciousness. You were warned. On the Council's live broadcast across 1 million worlds, the signal repeated, translated into every language, every dialect. You left us here, buried us in silence. Now we speak in death. The object turned toward the stars and vanished. The Yao Si. Zarn fleet was gone. 100 ships, thousands of warriors, erased in less than 5 minutes. Back on Earth, beneath the ancient ruins, a figure stood before a dark screen. His face was human, but wrong. Pale skin reinforced with liquid steel veins. His eyes swirling with data. He watched the final moments of the Zarn fleet and smiled. Another apex warrior approached. The galaxy will respond. He nodded. They always do. Do we strike next? No, the man said. We teach. He raised his hand, and a new ship lifted from the Earth's core, darker than space, alive with strange power. They think we're monsters, he whispered. It's time they understood why. The galaxy bled in silence. The Zarn Empire, once feared across 1,000 systems, had vanished. Not beaten, not defeated. Erased. Their entire fleet gone within minutes. No distress calls, no wreckage. Just a whisper left behind in every Zarn archive. You were warned. Panic spread fast. Worlds that once mocked Earth now sealed their skies. Border patrols doubled. Civilian travel collapsed. Entire colonies went dark, afraid to even speak the word human. But fear came too late, because Earth's monsters were already moving. From the edges of deep space, strange ships began to appear. Each one different in shape and style, like living things built from nightmare and memory. No two were alike. No flags, no codes, no signals. Just silence. Then destruction. One ship entered orbit over Lexen Prime, a peaceful trade world. It hovered for 9 minutes. The planet's leaders begged for contact, offered peace, apology, even surrender. The ship did nothing, and then the world's sun went dark. Lexen Prime never sent another message. Across the galaxy, powerful empires tried to respond. They launched fleets, built new weapons, hired ancient war species long thought extinct. Nothing worked. Because the enemy didn't fight like soldiers, they fought like ideas. A merchant convoy on the rim reported seeing a black object between their ships. They laughed. 1 hour later, the crews began turning on each other. No virus, no weapons, just whispers. By the time help arrived, the entire fleet was silent. No survivors. Each body had a word carved into its armor. Listen. In the Galactic Council, chaos ruled. Some begged for peace, others demanded revenge. Few simply resigned, unable to face what was coming. In a hidden war chamber, Admiral Tekra of the Tharn gathered the last remaining warlords. She held a secret. One Apex unit had been captured during the fall of Zarn space, a monster in human shape, stripped of his armor, bound in psychic chains, surrounded by 1,000 guards. He sat calmly in the center of a sealed chamber, staring. Forward. Tekra entered. Identify yourself, she demanded. The man tilted his head. His voice was quiet, cold. You already know what I am. Why attack us now? She asked. After all these years? He smiled. We didn't start this. You did. She slammed a fist on the table. We left you alone. His eyes narrowed. You caged us, called us beasts, buried us under your lies. So we made a choice. Tekra stepped back. What choice? The man leaned forward. To become the monsters you feared, so that when we returned, the galaxy would remember. Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered. The psychic chains shattered. Guards drew weapons. The apex didn't move. The lights went out. Screams followed. When they turned back on, only one thing remained. A single line burned into the wall. Earth does not come in peace. The war was no longer coming. It had already begun, and it wasn't a war for planets or politics or power. It was a reckoning. The galaxy had mistaken Earth's silence for death. But silence was only the breath before, the roar. All across the galaxy, stars flickered like dying candles. Whole systems had gone dark, not from conquest, but from something far worse, removal. No one knew how Earth's monsters chose their targets. There was no pattern, no mercy, no demands. One day a planet thrived, and the next it was gone, as if it had never existed. The Council's final bastion, Valian Prime, floated at the edge of the galactic core. It was defended by the most advanced fleets, the greatest minds, and relic weapons so dangerous they had never been used. Until now. Inside its central tower, the last alliance gathered, once rival species, bitter enemies now united in fear. They had one goal: stop the humans. The room was silent as a broken diplomat from the Zarn species whispered, "They don't want war. They want us to remember what we did." The others didn't respond. Then the alarms screamed, "They've arrived!" A commander yelled. "Multiple contacts, folding in from all directions. No communication, no codes. They just..." The screen exploded into static, and in that static, a face appeared. It was human, or something close. Pale, smooth, and lifeless. Its eyes were endless tunnels. Its voice came not through speakers, but inside their minds. "This is not conquest. This is balance. You forgot what you did to us. We came to remind you." Outside, black ships unfolded. From the void, shaped like memories twisted into metal. One touched the outer defense ring. That ring vanished. Not destroyed. Erased. Inside, the Alliance scrambled to launch their ancient weapons, forbidden devices once believed too powerful to exist. They fired gravitational imploders, mind nullifiers, anti-light bombs. Nothing touched the enemy. The human ships didn't return fire. They simply rewrote reality around them. A scientist screamed, "They're not using tech. They're using thought," and then his words stopped, mid-sentence, as if they had never been spoken. In the control tower, High Chancellor Dorek clutched a small data drive. On it was the last unedited truth, the story of what the galaxy had done to Earth, the war crimes buried, the experiments, the betrayals. He looked at the sky one last time, then handed the drive to his assistant. "Get this off-world. Someone has to know. Someone has to remember the truth." The doors burst open. They didn't see what entered. They only heard the footsteps, heavy, calm, slow. Then everything went dark. Far away, in deep intergalactic space, on a tiny, quiet, moon forgotten by the Council, an old receiver crackled. A signal came through, video. A figure stood in the ruins of Valian Prime, not armored, not armed, just standing. Behind him, the stars burned cold and strange. He looked into the camera. He didn't blink. He spoke in simple, perfect words. "You thought we were gone. You built your peace on the lie of our extinction. You taught your children to forget our name." He paused, then he smiled, slowly, without warmth. "Now they will remember us forever." He pressed a button on his wrist. The video glitched. The last shot showed a black flag rising above the ruins of the Council. A single symbol burned into an open eye, crying fire. Then the signal ended. The stars were quiet again, but the galaxy would never forget Earth. Not because of what humans were, but because of what they had become. Not extinct, not defeated, just waiting. The galaxy was shattered. Worlds were quiet. Trade was gone. Communication lines flickered with broken messages, and most systems lived in fear, not of war but of being noticed. Yet in the far reaches of the perimeter zone, where the Council's influence had never truly reached, a distant independent species, the Ka'ari, found something. Strange. A signal, faint, not human, not alien. It was older, deeper, buried beneath the Earth's crust. The Ka'ari research vessel Dawn Whisper picked up the signal's echo by accident. It pulsed like a heartbeat, not calling out but warning inward, as if it was keeping something locked inside. Captain Vero stared at the data stream. "It's not a message to the galaxy," he whispered. "It's a message to the Earth?" The crew looked at each other in silence. Could it be that even Earth feared something? They made a choice the Council never dared. They landed. But what they found beneath Earth's ruined surface wasn't a lab or a monster or even a machine. They found a prison. Massive, alive, beating, built not by aliens, not by monsters, by humans. And, sealed inside it, was something even they were afraid of. An apex soldier, long abandoned, strapped in chains forged from memory and thought. Its eyes opened, and it smiled. "They sent you to free me?" Captain Vero stepped back. "No, we didn't." "No, you should run." The prison lights failed, and across the stars, Earth went silent once more. But this time, the silence wasn't peace, it was fear. Because even monsters have things they're afraid of. And now, one of them was loose. The Ka'ari vessel, Dawn Whisper, was gone. No explosion, no distress call, no debris. One moment it was transmitting strange telemetry from beneath Earth's crust, and the next, it was no longer in existence. Not destroyed, just absent. The last signal it sent back was brief, broken. A whisper of panic across the stars. "We didn't wake it. It was already listening." Then silence. Again. On the outskirts of a forgotten mining world, deep in neutral space, a freighter, Pilot named Mira Dalen picked up something strange, a ship. No drive signature, no approach path, no identification, just a drifting husk, black, smooth, humming like a dream. It wasn't Zarn, it wasn't Council, and it definitely wasn't Earth's. Known Apex design. Her sensors refused to scan it. Her crew warned her not to board, but she was desperate, running low on supplies. And curiosity, she told herself, wasn't the same as fear. She docked and stepped aboard. Inside, the walls were breathing, not literally, but the way they pulsed, flexed, shifted like old muscle under stone. It was alive in a way no machine ever should be. She walked deeper, no bodies, no weapons, only a voice, not heard, felt. You look like them, but you're not. She froze. You didn't make us, but you came anyway. Suddenly, the lights flared, white hot, and Mira saw it. A being, tall, humanoid in shape, but wrapped in layers of ancient black armor etched with human symbols long lost to time. Its face was a mask, not worn, but grown. It stared at her. Then, whispered, "You let them forget us. Now, we will make them remember." She tried to run. The doors vanished. The ship shifted, not through space, but through reality. When it returned to known space, it wasn't alone. Dozens of ships, all twisted echoes of human design, followed behind, forming around the drifting freighter like shadows falling into place. But they didn't move toward Earth. They moved away from it, toward the galactic core, toward the last lights of the old empires. And this time, even Earth's apex forces didn't know what was coming. On Earth, deep in the ruins of Old Geneva, an apex commander named Seelan Rourke stared at the signal logs from Mira Dalen's freighter. His metal fingers twitched. "It's not one of ours," he said quietly. Another apex warrior approached. "Then what is it?" Rourke turned to the screen. The data was cold, old, and buried, from before the fall, before the Apex Protocol. Project Hollow Throne. Origin, Earth Core Lock. Status, lost, do not engage, do not pursue, do not speak. Rourke whispered a single word. Gods. His second asked, "Should we stop them?" Rourke's eyes glowed dimly. "No, we can't." He stood slowly, as if the weight of old sins was pressing into his shoulders. "We didn't just build monsters to fight the galaxy. We built monsters to fight what we couldn't understand. And now, those monsters are free." The skies above Valian's grave, the site where Earth destroyed the last Galactic Council stronghold, were never supposed to host life again. But now, something had returned. Not human, not Apex, something older. The ship wasn't seen, it was felt, as a pressure against the minds of every living being within light years. People didn't look up because of radar. They looked up because something deep in their bones told them, it's here. Back on Earth, beneath the black towers of old Siberia, Apex Commander Seelan Rourke stood in the ruins of the last Apex Command Center. Around him, war machines sparked and growled. But even they were afraid. Rourke watched a screen filled with corrupted data, streams of human DNA codes warped by impossible symbols, sound recordings that played backward and forward at the same time, locations disappearing from maps as they were viewed. He turned to his remaining command unit. "They're not just returning," he said. "They're reclaiming." "Reclaiming what?" someone asked. Rourke didn't answer, because the truth was worse than anything he could say. The Apex, humanity's monsters, had once sealed the hollow gods beneath Earth, not out of victory, but desperation, and they never told the galaxy what they buried, because they didn't want to believe it either. Not aliens, not weapons, but ideas, living, thinking, rewriting reality itself. Across 10 systems, the hollow ships passed silently. Each planet ceased to exist, not bombed, not consumed, simply unwritten. Their histories burned, their names forgotten. In the orbit of a once proud trade moon, a Council war archive blinked out of time. Only one sentence remained in its final log. They are undoing what should never have been. In a hidden apex sanctuary, the last living memory of Earth's ancient artificial mind, the AI called Echo, flickered to life. "I warned them," it whispered. "They made gods to protect themselves, then caged them in fear." The AI turned to Rourke's image on the interface. "There's only one thing they'll fear now." Rourke leaned forward. "What?" The AI smiled. "Us." Now, for the first time in centuries, the Apex, the same monsters who terrified the galaxy, began sending signals out. Not threats, warnings, to every world, every system, every survivor. If you're hearing this, run. They're not coming for humans. They're coming for everything with memory. They will rewrite what you are. In the deep heart of the galaxy, one of the hollow gods looked out across space. A thought passed between its kind. The cage has rusted. The children are proud. Let's teach them what it cost to steal fire from the void. The my stars blinked. The war for survival was over. Now came the war for reality itself. The hollow ships were not just weapons. They were truths made flesh. They didn't conquer planets. They erased the concept of them. In a matter of weeks, over a 100 star systems vanished from memory. Maps fell apart. History rewrote itself mid-sentence. People stared at blank screens and couldn't remember what was supposed to be there. No fire, no screams, just absence. What terrified the galaxy most wasn't death. It was forgetting that something ever lived. Apex Commander Seelan Rourke stood aboard the Night Veil, Earth's last surviving long-range dreadnought. Beside him were things that, just weeks ago, would have been unthinkable allies. Admiral Varesh of the Zarn, whose fleet once burned human colonies. Archivist Kyla of the Siraxi, whose people had led the erasure of Earth's name from galactic records. And even a non-enhanced human, Mira Dalen, the freighter captain who had stumbled into this nightmare and somehow survived the hollow awakening. Now they stood around the same war table, listening to the same message replay on a loop. You cannot kill what was never alive. You cannot fight what exists outside memory. You can only unite or vanish alone. The signal came from the Apex AI, Echo, now fully awakened. Rourke spoke, his voice cold and sharp. "We made the mistake of trying to conquer the galaxy. Then we made the mistake of caging something worse." He looked at the Zarn admiral. "And you made the mistake of waking it." Varesh didn't argue. The silence between them was agreement. Kyla the Siraxi stepped forward. "Our memory vaults are breaking. The hollow ones are corrupting thought. If they reach the core libraries, no one will even remember the word resistance." Mira. Dalen said nothing. She only pulled up a chart, showing the direction the hollow ships were heading. Not toward Earth, not toward power, but toward the galactic cradle, the birthplace of civilization. Where all species began. "They want the beginning," Mira whispered. "They want to rewrite the start of everything." The room went cold. Meanwhile, at the edge of known space, a desperate fleet formed, not by empire, not by race, but by survival. Apex, warships, Zarn dreadnoughts, Siraxi memory mines, smuggler ships, mercenary swarms, even rogue AI fragments once hunted by their own creators. They didn't fly banners. They didn't fly with hope. They flew with fear sharpened into purpose. And at the center of them all, the Night Veil, carrying the last tactical AI capable of understanding hollow architecture. Echo. The plan was simple and suicidal. Penetrate the memory fold before it collapses the cradle. Insert the anchor device, a relic of forbidden tech. that could lock memory in place and freeze reality for long enough to fight. But there was a cost. Someone had to carry the anchor through the fold and stay behind to activate it. It would erase their existence. Not death, erasure. No name, no record. No one to remember them, as if they had never lived. Commander Rourke stepped forward. "I'll do it." Mira grabbed his arm. "No, you're the only one they fear." He stared at her, eyes glowing with soft machine light. "They don't fear me," he said. "They fear what I still believe." "What's that?" Rourke turned toward the viewing glass. The hollow fleet was drawing close, like a wave of forgotten gods coming to wipe clean the stars. "I believe monsters can still choose to die human." He walked into the chamber. The door closed behind him. The battle began in silence. No war, cries, no last words. Just a unified scream of a galaxy that refused to be forgotten. And as the hollow began to consume the cradle, the anchor pulsed once and locked memory, just long enough for the fight to matter. They never found Rourke's body. They never spoke his name again. They didn't forget him. They weren't allowed to remember. But on the outer edge of the galaxy, every year on the same day, the stars pulse once, as if someone or something is still there, watching, waiting, guarding the memory of what it means to be monsters made by fear, who still chose to fight for hope.